Next on Currents News, in the aftermath of that deadly Ethiopian Airlines crash, we're learning more about the Catholic Relief Services workers who lost their lives serving God. The plane involved, the Boeing 737 MAX 8, is being grounded in a growing list of countries, but not the U.S. The feds are calling it the largest college admission scam they've ever prosecuted. Elite schools and Hollywood actresses are caught up in that scandal. Plus, the teacher who forced a young boy to wipe away his Ash Wednesday cross is speaking out about what happened. The news starts right now.
They were helping people feed their families.
The mission that 4 Catholic Relief Services workers were on when they lost their lives in Sunday's Ethiopian Airlines crash. Good evening, everyone. I'm Liz Faublas. Investigators are scrambling to come up with reasons why the Boeing 737 jetliner slammed back to Earth right after taking off. And we're learning more about the woman and 3 men who died while serving with CRS. Currents News' Tim Harfman has their story.
Catholic Relief Services, the international agency dedicated to helping poor and vulnerable people, trying to cope tonight with the loss of 4 colleagues. Megan Gilbert is a CRS spokesperson.
It's been a couple of days of just kind of talking to each other, mourning.
The 4 were among 157 passengers and crew members killed on impact when Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed Sunday, en route from Ethiopia to Kenya. Sarah Chalechu was part of the team responding to Ethiopia's food crisis. She had been a senior official in charge of commodities. Gaytinyet Alamayu was a senior project officer in helping procure food. He is survived by his wife and 1 daughter. Sinteyu Amika did the same sort of work as senior procurement officer. He had a wife and 3 daughters. Molusu Alemu was a senior finance officer for the Ethiopian project.
We were really worried at first when we heard about the crash because we know that that's a well-traveled route.
Worries became a reality. The 4 were on their way for training to learn how to better serve the hungry.
There is a real food insecurity crisis, really, in Ethiopia and the surrounding countries. So literally what they were doing is that they were helping people feed their families.
U.S. bishops are sending their condolences. USCCB President Cardinal Daniel DiNardo writing to Bishop Gregory Mansour, the CRS chairman, about his colleagues. Quote, "Their service to the poor and their accompaniment of the marginalized stand as a great witness to Christ and his love for us all. Please know that I have asked our brother bishops here in the United States to pray for the repose of the souls of Sarah, Gaytinyet, Sinteyu, and Mulusu, and we will especially do so at the upcoming meeting of the USCCB Administrative Committee this week. Despite tragedy, CRS will honor the victims by continuing to help others."
I'm sure that's what they would want. That's what they did, in their everyday lives, was to make sure that the people that we served got what they needed.
Tim Harfman, Currents News.
Tonight, the Catholic parish of St. Joseph in Northern California is rallying around the parents of 2 brothers killed in the crash. Mourners have already started placing flowers in memory of Mel and Bennett Riffle. The young men were graduates of the church's elementary school. St. Joseph's pastor, Father Fred Gukor, comforted the parents on Monday.
I did visited Susan and Ike this morning together with some other priests, and their faith are really strong, but of course, can imagine how we felt as parents as well.
Susan is the parish secretary at St. Joseph. She and husband Ike are asking for continued prayers. The investigation into why the jetliner crash hasn't reached any conclusions yet. Boeing is saying their aircraft is safe, but a growing number of nations are grounding the plane. Karen Kaifa has the latest.
The European Union suspending Boeing 737 MAX 8 jets across its airspace, joining aviation authorities in China, Singapore, and Indonesia, as well as individual airlines around the globe. So far, the U.S. hasn't followed suit. Boeing, meanwhile, said safety is Boeing's #1 priority, and we have full confidence in the safety of the MAX. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 crashed shortly after takeoff on Sunday. 157 people were killed. The airline's CEO said the pilots reported something amiss in an exchange with air traffic control.
The pilot reported flight control problems So he was having difficulties with the flight control of the airplane. So he asked to return back to base.
A Lion Air flight using the same Boeing model crashed off the coast of Indonesia last October. The flight attendants union, lawmakers, and others seeking FAA action. One former transportation official says the agency typically trusts Boeing, knows its aircraft best.
The FAA does not have the kind of expertise that Boeing and other major manufacturers have, so they really take them at their word.
But a former NTSB official says barring some revelation in the Ethiopian investigation,
they're going to have to act. And I think the pressure's building on the carriers, too.
American and Southwest are among U.S. carriers flying the Boeing 737 MAX 8s. Both have expressed confidence in their fleets. In Washington, Karen Kafa, Currents News.
The crisis in Venezuela is growing worse. People are now without water, and a Catholic archbishop is saying hundreds of people could have died in a power failure that is gripping much of the country. In Caracas, people lined up along the road to get jugs of water. The capital has been without electricity since last Thursday. Archbishop Ulysses Gutierrez of Ciudad Bolivar said the death toll because of the blackouts could be as high as 200. The United States is pulling the rest of its diplomatic personnel out of Venezuela. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo gave the order because of the, quote, deteriorating situation. Non-emergency American employees were withdrawn in January. An example of how desperate things are, a pharmacy is looted in Maracaibo. The city is one of the most affected by the power outage because it's so hot. Shop owners are giving away food that could spoil without refrigeration, but Venezuelans are unable to find even basic medicines on pharmacy shelves. The feds are calling it the largest college admission scam they've ever prosecuted. Dozens of people nationwide have been charged, including some familiar faces. Kristen Holmes has the latest from Washington.
Operation Varsity Blues.
We're here today to announce charges in the largest college admissions scam ever prosecuted by the Department of Justice.
A massive FBI investigation coming to a head. The Justice Department charging 50 people in an elaborate scheme aimed at securing admission to prestigious universities.
We have charged 3 people who organized these scams, 2 SAT or ACT exam administrators, 1 exam proctor, 1 college administrator, 9 coaches at elite schools, and 33 parents.
Among the parents charged are several notable names, including CEOs, a fashion designer, and actresses Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman, who was arrested in Los Angeles. Much of the indictment revolves around a man named William Singer, the founder of a college preparation business. The scam worked in 2 ways, through test scores and athletics. In some cases, parents allegedly paying for third parties to take ACT and SAT exams on behalf of their children. In others, Singer contacted college coaches to help students gain admission as recruited athletes, regardless of their athletic ability.
For every student admitted through fraud, an honest, genuinely talented student was rejected.
Kristen Holmes, Currents News.
Pope Francis is on a spiritual retreat tonight about an hour away from Rome. The Holy Father and officials of the Vatican Curia are living at a religious house to meditate about Lent and listen to the reflections of a Benedictine monk. Argentine Bishop Gustavo Zanqueta is also attending. He's under Vatican investigation for sexual abuse of seminaries and other misconduct. Retired West Virginia Bishop Michael Bransfield is being restricted from ministry after a months-long preliminary investigation into allegations of sexual harassment and misconduct, as well as financial improprieties. There are also similar restrictions for retired Bishop Gordon Bennett, who was an auxiliary with the Baltimore Archdiocese. Neither cleric has commented on the latest developments. A former New Jersey priest identified by the Newark Archdiocese as credibly accused of sexual abuse of minors has been shot dead. John Saparelli was found in his Nevada home. He was permanently removed from ministry in 1992. Police are investigating the case as a homicide. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is under fire tonight after suggesting that Palestinian citizens of Israel don't belong there because Israel is the national state of Jewish people alone. Despite public rebuke by the Israeli president, Netanyahu is not backing down. Melissa Bell has the latest from Jerusalem.
She's one of Israel's best-known faces, an actress who's now at the center of a political firestorm only weeks before Israel goes to the polls. It was in response to an interview of Benjamin Netanyahu's ultra-loyal culture minister on Saturday that Rotem Seller posted this question on Instagram. When will anyone in this government tell the public that this is a country of all its citizens and that all people are born equal? Netanyahu replied directly to Seller's comment at his weekly cabinet meeting.
Israel is a Jewish, democratic state. This means it is the national state of the Jewish people alone. Of course, it respects the individual rights of all its citizens, Jews and non-Jews alike, but it is the national state, not of all citizens, but only of the Jewish people.
The Prime Minister's words set the internet alight. The Israeli actress Gal Gadot calling on Instagram for a dialogue for peace, for equality, for tolerance between one another. The Anti-Defamation League, which fights anti-Semitism, warned against the vilification of Israel's Arab minority population, saying this anti-Arab rhetoric is a deeply troubling trend. It's not the first time the Prime Minister has been criticized for the use of inflammatory language ahead of a vote. On election day 4 years ago, he warned that Arab voters were heading to the polls in droves, later apologizing, but only after he'd won the election. Once again, Netanyahu is accused of using highly sensitive language as an election campaign appears headed down to the wire. Melissa Bell, Lod.
The wake and funeral arrangements for retired Brooklyn Auxiliary Bishop Rene Valero have been finalized. He returned to the Lord on Sunday. The wake will be held in 2 locations. On Monday at the Immaculate Conception Center in Douglaston from 2 to 5 p.m. and from 7 to 9. Next Tuesday, Catholics will be able to offer final farewells at Blessed Sacrament Church in Jackson Heights from 2 to 5 p.m. A vigil mass will be celebrated at Blessed Sacrament on Tuesday at 7:30. A mass of Christian burial will be celebrated at Immaculate Conception Center next Wednesday, March 20th at 10:30 a.m. There's a lot more news headed your way. A new development in that Ash Wednesday controversy. The teacher explains why she told her student to wipe his forehead clean.
Ever wonder how local churches get restored? Well, a lot of that work happens right here. I'm Emily Drewby, and that story is ahead.
And the secret Vatican archives of Pope Pius XII are being opened. I talked to an expert about why that is so important. Do you have a story idea or want to share a tip? Email us at newstips@desalesmedia.org or call our 24-hour number, 718-517-3122. We'll be right back. She made her student wipe away his Ash Wednesday ashes, a move that caused outrage. Now the Utah teacher is speaking up, saying the incident was nothing more than a misunderstanding.
I had no idea it was a religious symbol.
4th grade teacher Moana Patterson is at the center of a heated controversy over a sacred symbol for the Catholic faithful, an ash cross on the forehead to mark the holy day, Ash Wednesday.
My entire life has been centered around respecting diversity.
Last Wednesday, Patterson told 9-year-old William McLeod to wipe it off. For the first time, she's giving her side of the story.
A student came into my classroom with what appeared to be dirt on his forehead. I gave him a wet wipe to clean it off. When I learned it was a sacred symbol for Ash Wednesday, I immediately apologized to the boy and his family.
William, I am so sorry about what happened today. I hope we can move forward from this.
William said last week that he's already forgiven the teacher.
I accept her apology because she's actually a really nice teacher.
But William's dad is not buying Patterson's statement about thinking it was dirt. He says she knew it was a sacred symbol because his son told her.
He explained to her that it was Ash Wednesday, it was from church, and he was not allowed to take it off.
The teacher is currently suspended while the school district reviews the incident. A spokesperson for the district says her actions were unacceptable, adding that no student should be required to remove their ashes. The U.S. Ambassador for International Religious Freedom says the Vatican-China agreement on the appointment of bishops has set a bad precedent for government interference with other religions. Ambassador Samuel Brownback says the Chinese government's abuse of members of Catholic communities continues. Dozens of Catholic bishop positions remain unfilled in China, and authorities in the Henan province have banned anyone under 18 from going to Mass. 80 years ago today, a cardinal by the name of Eugenio Pacelli was elected pope, assuming the name Pope Pius XII. Pius was crowned pope in 1939 and headed the Catholic Church until his death in October 1958. His cause of canonization was opened in 1965 by Pope Paul VI. He was then declared venerable by Pope Benedict XVI in 2009.
Che l'apertura degli archivi vaticani per il pontificato di Pio XII avverrà il 2 marzo 2020.
Pope Francis telling the world that in less than 1 year, the secret Vatican archives concerning Pius, the Holocaust, and World War II will be opened. That decision comes after 3 decades of pressure from historians and Jewish organizations who want to learn the truth of how the Vatican responded to Nazism. Here to talk about what could lie within those pages is Gary Krupp. He founded Pave the Way Foundation, an organization that looks to build bridges among faiths. Gary, thank you so much for being here. This has been a passion of yours for a very, very long time. You've had interest in the work of Pope Pius XII during World War II. Why is that?
My wife and I are Jewish, and we grew up hating him. And because we actually have a relationship with the Vatican State, we came across documentation, actually through Sister Margherita Marchione originally, where we found documents and statements and things that had happened which were absolutely shocking, exactly the opposite of what we were led to believe about this man. And it was a driving force for us to actually get involved and to...
And to put this into context, what is your relationship with the Vatican State that gives you this access?
Okay, I was, in the year 2000, I was knighted by John Paul II to a papal knighthood. It's not a Catholic church, it's a Vatican State order of St. Gregory the Great, because of the work we did for the Padre Pio Hospital, volunteer work. Then in 2007, I was knighted again by Pope Benedict for some other things that we had done for the Vatican Library, and then October 1st, knighted again by Pope Francis to the highest level of a Grand Cross. And my wife was also given Grand Cross, which had never happened before. No, there's never been a husband and wife, and there's never been a Jewish woman who's ever received this.
Okay, I really wanted to give that perspective there. Now, many people are split about Pius's papacy. Some say he was silent during the Nazi massacre of Jews. Others claim that he saved thousands of lives. What do you think that these Vatican documents will finally show?
Both are true. I can't say he was silent because the Vatican radio did condemn a lot of the atrocities committed against Jews, but you have to understand what was going on at the time. And the church was under attack and was going to be attacked. In fact, one of our, I could just show you, this is one document right here, which is the testimony of General Karl Wolff, who was the deputy to Himmler. It's done in 1972. You can download it off our website. It's in German, and we have the translation for it, where Hitler ordered him to come up with a plan to invade the Vatican and to kill all the bishops and cardinals. And it was a brilliant plan. We actually saw the invasion map. And the church knew it. Pius XII knew it because we had seen a document from September 6, 1943, where he knew that he was going to be arrested, and he said that he had placed in his desk a letter of resignation.
In keeping with that, Gary, what he knew, what he did know, what he didn't know or do, those have definitely come into question. But it was the biggest question is what he should have done. A lot of people say he should have denounced Hitler. He should have excommunicated anyone who was involved in the Holocaust. Do you agree?
They did. They excommunicated all members of the Nazi Party, the German bishops, in 1930. If you go to our website, you can download the documents of excommunication. So it's absolutely remarkable that nobody has even bothered to find these, and they're available in Germany, a lot of this information. And there was a very, very serious situation. 1/3 of the Catholic clergy of Poland was massacred in Dachau. Catholics were being attacked at the same time, nuns and priests. So the whole notion that there was no danger here is absurd. Plus the fact that they were sheltering Jews and sheltering people all over Europe.
This is absolutely fascinating. Your research is compelling. Thank you so much for joining us. We're, of course, going to have you back as the process progresses, but loved having you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cardinal Timothy Dolan, who co-chairs the USCCB's dialogue with the National Council of Synagogues today, praised the Pope's decision, saying, "I am grateful to His Holiness for this welcome step. I pray it will bring about a new era in which Catholic and Jewish scholars who have deepened their trust and friendship can continue working together to examine this important new material." Still to come on Currents News, the story of a man who is rebuilding the faith, literally, by restoring Catholic churches, and prepare to be inspired by the strength of 84-year-old Flo Myler as she breaks records around the world. We'll be right back. He's a man of the church, many churches in fact, serving for over 80 years. For decades, one local family has been keeping churches around the Brooklyn diocese looking brand new, restoring about 200 parishes in the process. Currents News' Emily Drewby has that report.
We made these candlesticks from scratch, and you can process with these.
Henry Gargiulo learned how to restore churches when he was just a kid, listening to his father.
Well, I grew up with it, right? It was right there. It was part of our dinner. You know, every conversation was about a different church he worked in or some other project he was working on, church related.
The family's company, Artisan Restoration, was started back in 1937 and first named E. Gargiulo.
And we've been working at churches all these many years.
Now Henry runs the small company. The firm has restored hundreds of churches and places of worship for all religions throughout the tri-state area. After Henry makes an on-site visit, a rendering is created, and then much of the restoration work is done right here in their studio. Everything from woodworking to painting. They even design and create their own stained glass windows here in the studio.
We've probably completed over $2 million worth of stained glass work.
More than half of the churches the company has worked on are in the Diocese of Brooklyn. Gargiulo, who is Catholic, recently finishing a repainting and redecorating job at Our Lady of the Miraculous Medal in Ridgewood. Most of their work comes from word of mouth. In addition to restoring churches, the company has created pieces for 3 separate papal visits to the U.S. This chair was for Pope Benedict XVI when he came to New York City in 2008. But why churches?
It makes you want to get up in the morning and go to work. It's like, you know, because look at all the satisfaction and joy, and look at it this way too. I figure I might get a pass from St. Peter when the time comes.
Henry slowly building his way to heaven. In Mount Vernon, Emily Drewby, Currents News.
You are only as old as you feel, or so says the world's oldest pole vaulter. At 84 years old, Flo Myler travels the world competing in pole vaulting events and breaking records while she's at it. Flo even teaches a fitness class at her local senior center, encouraging others to get active.
It makes me so happy to see people come up to me and say, "You have inspired me to really get active." That's a wonderful feeling.
In June, Flo is traveling to New Mexico to participate in the National Senior Games, as well as celebrating her 85th birthday. Happy birthday, young lady. That is Currents News. I'm Liz Faublas. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.